Today we're talking to Tracy Tennant. Tracy has a book, very helpful book called Confessions of an Ex-Mormon, where she explores some of the issues that former Latter-day Saints go through on their journey to a new faith life, a new experience in a local church, and all the rest. And so one of the things that is really important is there's going to be relational challenges in leaving Mormonism. And we have a lot of other resources and topics that we talk about on that. But one thing that we're going to run into are what we might call toxic people. What are toxic people? Who are they? How do we know who's toxic?
Toxic people are the ones who cannot let you leave their presence with your dignity intact.
Okay, like that. That's a good way to put it. So they're going to control, demean, attack. There's a lot of different ways. Guilt. Okay. All right. So they're negative. Now everybody in every relationship, people are going to be upset or at times, or they're going to be negative at times or whatever. But we're not just talking about a normal range of behavior, right?
Right. Yeah, you can expect, look, this is a difficult thing on all sides. It's difficult for you when you leave the church, but from the aspect of your spouse or your parents or whoever are in close relationship with you, their hearts are broken too. They don't understand what's going on. They still believe the church is true. Right. So of course you're going to face moments of, where you kind of butt heads, or where you clash, or where they're upset, they cry and want. That's completely normal. Yeah. Completely normal. And you can expect that. But if a relationship is toxic, that's when the person tries to manipulate you, right, or to try to make you feel guilty on an ongoing basis.
It's happening all the time. It's kind of the nature of the relationship then is defined by not just one incident.
We all say things that we regret, and it's no different in this situation. Your spouse might, say, well, whatever, negative XYZ, or, you've just been wanting to sin all along, and it's going to hurt, but that doesn't mean that it's toxic. Right. But if it's the constant, ongoing, month after month, where you can't even be around them without them poking you in the eyes symbolically, or taking jabs at you, or your new lifestyle.
Right. Tearing you down. So chronic and consistent continual negativity or manipulation or controlling behavior, or I've seen where people don't respect any boundaries in your life. I mean, and so this happens a lot. So you have the person in the ward who always feels like they can come over and talk and try to convince you, or they feel like they can talk to your kids when you're not there, like they have somehow the right to do that, or or talk about you. I mean, so there's all kinds of ways that negativity and that lack of boundaries comes into play. So how do we handle that?
In those instances, it's perfectly legitimate to withdraw yourself. Okay. You have to set boundaries, and I know for some people that's a little uncomfortable. They don't like to make waves. They don't want to say,
You don't like conflict. We're all conflict avoidant.
This is the line, and I won't allow you to go any farther. But sometimes it's unavoidable. I mean, if you're married to somebody, for example, who is still a faithful member of the church, and now you're not, you can't just withdraw from that. Right. And you can set boundaries that are both, respectful and self-honoring, and yet honoring of your spouse as well.
Yeah, that's hard. Now, the farther away they are from a close relationship, the easier it is to set a boundary. Right. But when they're in your home, then this becomes a lot more challenging.
It does.
So what kind of boundaries? What would you say maybe in different? Give us maybe just a hypothetical.
Well, okay, so you're a man. You've come to the conclusion that the church isn't true. You've expressed those feelings to your wife. You're gonna, whether it's you're gonna have your name removed from the records of the church, or even if it doesn't go to that end, you've already said, I'm not going to go anymore. I'm talking to the bishop, and I'm asking to be released from all my callings. So now your wife is upset, understandably, but now she's screaming at you, or she's calling you names because she's trying to jar you back into coming back into the church or whatever. Right. And you don't have to let the other person walk all over you. You can still address her concerns, her worries, her fears, and yet be honoring to yourself by saying, look, honey, I know this is important to you. I know you're upset. I want to talk to you, with you about this, but I'm not going to do it while you're screaming at me. You know. And then you leave the room, and you know, you teach people by your actions and your words how to treat you.
Right.
If you just sit there and take the abuse, you are teaching them that they can dump all kinds of verbal sewage on you, and you're just going to tolerate it.
Right.
That is a toxic situation.
Yeah, you've just trained them to that toxicity is okay.
Right.
And normal. So so if I set a boundary though, like it's not really about trying to control their behavior, is it?
Right.
I mean,
you can't control how other people treat you. You know, you can't control how they talk to you directly, but you can control how you respond.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to talk with you while you're calling me names, and then you leave. Or you can phrase it, instead of the negative, I'm not going to, set it in the positive. I'll continue this discussion when we can speak to each other respectfully.
Okay.
And then you leave the room.
Right.
And then leave the door open. I mean, follow through, because that's how you're showing the other person that you know that they have valid feelings too.
Right.
You don't want to negate their feelings because they're just as strong.
Yeah.
And you want to show respect for that. So leave the door open, but you're setting guidelines for how that interchange is going to happen.
Sort of retraining the relational process of how you can talk about tough things that are difficult and challenging emotionally. So it's not about trying to control them, but it's about how I'm responding to them, and sometimes that means I have to limit my exposure to that person when they're acting a certain way, right? Okay. And I think it's important to remember that other people can set boundaries on us too,
That's
right?
right.
And we have to respect that.
Yeah, and you can expect that to happen. You might have a sister-in-law or a sister who refuses to let you see their kids. I mean, maybe you've taken them to dance lessons for years, or gone out to lunch with them, and now all of a sudden it's like you've been cut off. You can't do anything about that, but you can pray for them and you can respect their boundaries, because it's a two-way street. How can you ever have the opportunity to reach out to them in the future if you're not showing respect for the boundaries that they've set? And
respecting the boundaries has potentially has a way of helping them build trust in you.
Right.
So that maybe the boundary will be moved later on. So that's really helpful, because you are going to meet those kind of people on your journey. And so how you handle that's really important. We've only been able to touch on it, but Tracy goes into it in a lot more detail in her book. So you'll see a link to that below. Encourage you to get that and explore that with somebody. Use the discussion questions here that go with this conversation to explore it as well. And there's a lot of other things in our library that touch on related topics, and those will be an encouragement to you. So, you know, when you run into those toxic people, don't despair, don't freak. There's some help here and some great ideas to help you cope with that. Thanks for watching today.